AI in journalism. In this module, we will look into a risk assessment framework for using AI in journalism and case studies of stories that successfully used AI. Here's a framework for using AI in journalism. It is helpful to perform a risk assessment. Consider whether the task you're doing needs to be low accuracy or high accuracy, whether the generative AI tool's output will be internal-facing or audience-facing. The sweet spot is when you only need low accuracy and are producing internal-facing research. Strongly avoid using generative AI for high accuracy tasks that are also audience-facing. Here are some examples. Don't use ChatGPT to write an article. A safe zone might be to use machine learning to filter down documents. Proceed with caution if you want to use Claude or some other generative AI tool to summarize your source interviews. Beware that chatbots can still hallucinate when summarizing documents. If you use them, fact-check them carefully. And proceed with caution when you're using DALL-E to generate an abstract header image. Maybe consider hiring a real artist. What about using AI for fact-checking or to detect deepfakes? This is a question we get a lot. Unfortunately, this falls into the high-risk avoid category. You need this to be highly accurate and it will be audience-facing. There are many tools that claim to do some form of detection or automated fact-checking, but they are not accurate. The best thing that we can do now is to continue using our existing reporting tools, including checking who shared the image or information, checking if the image has been published before, checking with on-the-ground sources, and of course, writing stories that raise awareness about how AI is impacting misinformation, disinformation, and journalism. Let's walk through some examples where AI has been useful. One emerging use of AI has been for classifying data and other information. Claude, a competitor to ChatGPT, recently created a plugin called Claude for Sheets. It can help users tap into large language models to do basic tests, such as extracting emails or basic categorization of text. Why is this a sweet spot? Generally speaking, chatbots can be a little bit more accurate when structuring and filtering data than when generating new data or summarizing data. And these categories can be something that you can double-check yourself. Another way in which AI has been used is to summarize a lot of information. This is a project from Vikram Oberoi, an engineer in New York. He had a problem. It was very difficult to navigate all of the New York City Council proceedings. His solution was to look at the transcripts that the City Council publishes. It publishes both transcripts and video recordings of its meetings. So Oberoi used ChatGPT-4 to structure the transcripts into segments and created simple summaries of each segment. The reason why this is part of a sweet spot, the summaries don't need to be highly accurate. It allows users to quickly navigate information, hone in on what's relevant, and then examine the full transcript and video, meaning the ground truth, to verify it. One more prominent use of AI is for coders. AI has been used by a lot of developers. This can be helpful for data journalists and other technologists in the newsroom. Claude and ChatGPT have proven to be helpful in showing coding solutions to common problems and explaining bits of code so that coders can implement the code knowing what each line does. It does make sense to double-check the code as well. It can also be helpful to distinguish between predictive and generative AI. One use for predictive AI is the form of computer vision, which some journalists have started to use to filter satellite imagery. In this story, a journalist trained a computer vision model, deep learning, not generative AI, to detect the signature bomb crater of a 2,000-pound bomb. It was a highly specialized task. It made sense to train a specialized computer vision model. He used it to sift and filter down all of the satellite imagery they had to a smaller and more manageable pool of images. The team then manually verified every single image in the smaller pool to determine which ones were actually bomb craters. Here's another similar example. The team in this particular story trained a computer vision model to find airstrips in the Amazon rainforest and then compared them with the database of registered airstrips to identify illegal ones. This allowed them to track down where rainforest destruction was happening. There's a high correlation between illegal airstrips and illegal activity. You can also use computer vision for visual work. This project is a whimsical example of how you can use AI tools. Journalist Alex Lim saw that there was a trend among Australian football players. Many of them had mullets. For this story, he then used a meta AI tool called Segment Anything to cut out the mullets of all Australian football players. Among the 788 players he analyzed, he counted 150 mullets among them. That's 20%, almost 20%, or 19% of all players. And here you can see all of the haircuts that he cut out from all of these players. A lot of newsrooms are experimenting with generative AI. It can be very helpful for you to run experiments in your newsroom or for your work to see just how helpful AI can be. In the next slides, we are hoping to highlight one such experiment that the journalists ran at The Guardian. In 2024, The Guardian decided to put generative AI, a large language model, to the test for a particularly challenging task: live blog summaries. Roughly every 4 hours, its live bloggers needed to stop their actual blogging for some 20 minutes to write a summary of everything that had happened until that moment to catch new readers up. The Guardian wondered whether they could largely automate this part so its live bloggers could stay focused on reporting the new information. They imagined two possible scenarios: using a large language model to generate live blog summaries that an editor could quickly scan, correct, and publish. And secondly, if this large language model was super reliable, they could then add a button directly to their live blog that readers could push themselves, and it would generate a summary on the fly to catch them up to that point. As Chris Moran, The Guardian's head of editorial innovation, says, they didn't think it would actually work, but they still wanted to run an experiment. They fine-tuned a series of different large language models with 3,700 Guardian Life blogs using different tones and topics. They used the large language models to generate hundreds of live blog summaries. They then asked people within the newsroom to evaluate each summary against three options: it's inaccurate, it's accurate but not important, it's accurate and important. Over the course of the months-long experiment, the large language models they fine-tuned got progressively better. Initially, in almost every single summary, evaluators marked around half of the bullet points as inaccurate and at least a quarter marked as unimportant. By the end, most summaries contained only around one inaccuracy and one unimportant detail. Conclusion: despite the dramatic progress, The Guardian decided not to deploy the feature. Why? Two reasons. It's super hard to catch a single error in a 400-word summary when you are live blogging. In the end, it would be faster and more accurate for the live bloggers to write the summaries from scratch than to comb through a large language model-generated summary. Secondly, The Guardian realized that what it was asking the large language model to do isn't actually the strength of the large language model. Picking what is important to highlight in the summary is rooted in a real-world context. That's not how large language models operate. So even if it looks like it's performing well in experiments, it could perform unpredictably at scale. Whatever you decide, transparency is key. Using AI can make audiences distrust your organization. This is why the London School of Economics Journalism AI Network recommends that each newsroom comes up with an AI policy and that journalists clearly mark when they are using AI or are republishing work that used AI. From labels that show AI-generated images to describing in your methodology what AI tools you may have used. Given the heightened awareness of AI, any use needs to be disclosed front and center and in a way that signals transparency. You need to be able to communicate about it in ways that are not going to alienate the large segments of the public who are really concerned about what these developments will mean for society at large.